Hello and welcome to Undrafted, a Dynasty game theory podcast brought to you by the Undroppables. I am your host, Scott Belanger, a.k.a. Jax Falcone. You can find me on Twitter at Dino Game Theory. This is episode number 228. Let's roll. And we are past week one. There's results, man. There's results. There's proof of concept. There is overreaction. There is proper reaction. I think in Dynasty, this is where you start to make the most sort of profit outside of maybe rookie draft trading and things of that nature. Startup draft trading is the early weeks where you can take advantage of people misreading the information that's coming through. They're looking at, a guy who scores a touchdown but was only on the field for 3 snaps or something like that as, he's going to be good. We're going to look a little deeper. We're going to try and, get through all that noise and figure that out. And no better person than first-time guest, Mr. Zareh. And I'm not going to be able to nail that last name. I've known my boy for a long time. But I'm going to do it with him right now. I was meant to ask him pre-show. Kantzabedian. Zareh,
yeah, man, that's it. I was gonna say that you're the first host that's never asked before the show started, how do I pronounce your name? And I was like, man, this guy's just gonna raw dog it. He's just gonna raw dog my name. He did really, really well, man.
Zareh,
yeah, good job.
32 beat writers and a contributor to Football Guys joins me today. And Zareh and I, Z as we affectionately call him,
there you go.
Go back a long ways, man. I've been watching Zareh when we both had no affiliation whatsoever. We were just a couple of losers in our mom's basements on the internet talking football. Here we are today. Thank you so much for joining us, Zareh. You're the man. What's going on, buddy?
Nothing much, man. Very happy to be here. This show is honestly probably the best Dynasty show out there right now. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. I think this is one of the best Dynasty shows to listen to. I mean, if anybody's looking to get better at Dynasty or learning how to become a better Dynasty analyst themselves, you need to listen to this show because Scott is one of the figureheads of the Dynasty community. And yeah, man, week one in the books. I mean, there's a lot to absorb. There's a lot to overreact to. Players to panic maybe on. We'll see 1 week. Again, we don't want to use it's only week one as a crutch argument as to like brush off some legitimate concerns. But yeah, I think we'll dive into that in the show and see what players we need to be panicking on.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about Z is he's a Dynasty player. He's Dynasty focused. He's Dynasty minded. He's multifaceted in terms of his skill set, but I think he's a real Dynasty player. And, I have all sorts of different people on this show, people who don't even play Dynasty. And that's not a prerequisite to get good information to become a better Dynasty player, to talk to someone who doesn't play Dynasty. But in this case, we get best of both worlds. We get a guy who's really kind of doing a little bit similar to what we did last week. We had Coach Speak analysis, Coach Speak Index. Zareh kind of does a similar job for 32 beat writers, as 32 beat writers to some degree is a little bit of a similar entity to Coach Speak in that they're taking the noise, the information, beat writer information, as much information as they possibly can. They're sort of condensing that. And then the cool thing about what Zareh does is he basically takes that and tries to put actionable advice to it for any type of league, but certainly for Dynasty as well.
Right. Yeah. And what we do at 32 beat writers is we basically scour every single day the internet, every single possible source we can find for any kind of player news. And we have a player feed, which is, I think, our primary feature at 32 beat writers, which has all the news clips from all the beat writers out there. And we just kind of post them in player feeds. And what I do is I go in and I provide fantasy insight as to what those mean for fantasy football, and how you can translate that to fantasy success, how you can leverage that. I think a lot of what we use what we use primarily for player news is X, right? We scroll the timeline for X. We look for the biggest retweets, and those big retweets gain steam and they guide player value and they push player value. But there are so many things, so many little nuggets that get overlooked. And at 32 Beat Writers, we capture everything in a big fishing net, and we put it all on our website. And it's if you subscribe, you're going to get all those player nuggets, and you're going to get a much better holistic view of what's happening with the players that you're interested in.
Yeah, and I think that's a big deal. It's something
Yeah.
that I don't have enough time in the day to do myself. So I follow 32 beat writers, Coach Speak Index, and others. But I follow 32 beat writers for exactly that reason, so I can get everything streamlined because I don't have time. I don't. First of all, X is a nightmare because if you're on the For You thing, you're getting all sorts of racist rants or whatever. I don't know. It's like, what are we talking about? Get out of here. That's not what I'm here for football. How did I get this stuff on my For You? If you go to following, that's fine. Well, I follow a lot of different people. It's hard. You got to create lists and stuff like that. So ultimately, yeah, I like places I can go and just get information fast. So that way I can do that because I need everything to happen fast because I don't have enough time in my day. And that's what 32 Beat Writers has huge value. And then if you take that a step further and follow Z and listen to him, you're going to get some actionable advice on top of all that and even further streamlined, bit of information. So I absolutely love it. Looking forward to having this conversation. We've got a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the week and I'm trying to figure out what do we talk about? Because it's only a 2-hour show.
Only.
Right.
That's plenty of time.
Dude, sometimes I'll do an hour and a half, 2-hour show. And I'm like,
yeah.
There's a lot more I could have talked about and gotten information on. So without further ado, let's get into it. I think, I'll start where we didn't even talk about the show sheet. Last night's game, I know you were working, probably only caught some of it, but I was just absolutely, I've not seen a game like that in many, many years. A game where Chicago looked like they were the absolute best team ever. Minnesota looked terrible in the first half and then completely flipped that where it was the exact opposite of that in the fourth quarter in the second half. And, I think there's things to be hopeful for and nervous about with both Kaleb Williams and JJ McCarthy. What a night. What did you think about that for what you saw, but also what do you think it means to their values going forward?
It's kind of, man, there's so much to take away. So I think watching the first half of the game, Kaleb Williams started out, they came out with a first drive and it was really hot. And that's your first drive of the first week of the season when teams don't really know what to expect. Like, you can prepare as much as you want, but the opening drive is always going to be the best drive for any team, really, because it's what you've scripted for. It's the most heavily scripted play of this season because you've had so much time to work on it. And they performed really well. I'm sure the EPA metrics were off the charts for the first drive. Yeah. But then you kind of, when I watch Kaleb Williams, I kind of see these Justin Fields moments where he just doesn't pull the trigger sometimes.
Yep.
And I like Kaleb Williams a lot out of the pocket. And, I think it's going to take some time for Kaleb Williams to get there. And I think he looked way better than he did at any point last year in the season in Ben Johnson's offense. And I wrote that I think during the month of September that this Bears offense is going to take some time to learn their identity. I think there were some signals for encouragement going on in the season. I don't think you need to be completely abandoning or running with your hair on fire in the streets for Kaleb Williams or any of the pass catchers. I want to jump to Rome Odunze real quick because I was looking at Rome Odunze last year and, he performed really well. I think the big part that they misconnected on, where there was a big disconnect between he and Williams, were on deep balls. And that's where I think if there is a connection and a chemistry between Odunze and Williams on those deep balls, I mean, it's going to be wheels up for Odunze this year. And all through training camp, again, I don't mean to keep plugging 32 Beat Writers, but 32 Beat Writers website said that the connection between he and Odunze is really, really strong this year. And I think that's really positive news for Rome Odunze, and one reason to maybe be going to buy Odunze right now in Dynasty leagues for a moderately lower cost. That touchdown last night probably kept his floor up a little bit. But I mean, I think you definitely need to be buying Odunze. JJ McCarthy, he looked fantastic. I was watching his first half of the game, right? And I was trying to watch my own emotions, right? I'm like, okay, what am I thinking right now? I'm like, okay, this guy sucks. Okay, no, this guy, this, that. I was like, all right, that's where you need to stop. You need to listen to yourself right now and think about you're being the 5-year-old analyst. You're not being mature about this right now. You need to give it a second. And sure
Yes.
enough, in the second half, I was like, I'm probably going to be wrong in my first half feelings and emotions about this guy. And sure enough, he comes right back, shows that resilience. I was talking to a coworker about JJ McCarthy, who's a big college guy. He was like, "This is why I never liked JJ McCarthy. He's a game manager, this and that." I was like, "All right, man, just let's see what happens." And sure enough, he came back, and I'm sure Justin Jefferson managers were kind of panicking too about what
Yeah.
to do on the season. But yeah,
Well, yeah,
overall,
I feel
yeah,
the exact same way, Z. I was watching the game and everybody was just sort of victory lapping against JJ, and I'm like,
yeah,
bro, it's the first half, first quarter, first anything of his career. Like on the road in Chicago, place was nuts. There was pressure. Like I was that D line was rested and ready to go. They were really causing some trouble for the Minnesota offensive line early in that game. He didn't turn it over. He missed, just barely missed a couple of scrambles where like he got shoestring tackled, JJ that is, where I thought he could have made some big plays, extended drives. And had he been able to do that, he might have gotten some rhythm going, but instead, was sacked on one. He sort of rolled forward. The other one, he sort of tripped up. And I'm like, God, he is so close to just breaking a couple of these things. I thought he did a good job of managing the pocket, even though they were doing nothing on offense. They weren't able to run the ball. Like, it was like they're getting steamrolled, and then, yeah, I was like thinking the same thing. I was like, people really victory lapping a first half like this? Like,
right.
it wasn't looking good. I've been a JJ guy, and I'm like, well, that's not awesome. But I'm also like, I'm not ready to say I was wrong. Like, I'm certainly not ready to say I'm right, even after the way he played. I will say the one thing that we've been touting is he's a winner. We've been
Mm.
saying that, like, when the chips are down, this kid is not afraid. He's not going to fold. And sure enough, that's exactly what JJ McCarthy did. Is he came out there and made plays when he needed to. I really thought, though, more so that Chicago lost the game more than Minnesota won the game, even though JJ was so good, because, like, Chicago sort of felt like Kaleb started 10 for 10. I think he ended, I have it right here. Hold on. He it ended 21 of 35. So, like, he
Mm.
went 11 of 25 after that. Like, not good. He was only 6.1 yards per attempt. Just like you said, he was afraid to let some balls go. I thought, he played with sort of decisiveness early, but late there was a lot. He got more scramble stuff and all the rest of it. So I think there's stuff to be worried about. I also had the Adunze. He got 8 targets that led the team, but he was. I just looked at it. Oh my god, he was 7.5 A dot, right? 7.5 A dot compared to 14.2 last year. So A
Mm-hmm.
dot cut in half. You're right. There wasn't these shots down the field. They weren't there. The late touchdown, which was half garbage. I mean, they were up 10. It was a
Mm-hmm.
really cool play, by the way. I love the play that he scored on, but he was wide open in the back and just throw, easy. So yeah, that saves his fantasy day. But I thought, like, if we don't get to that play, it would have been very ugly, because he would have, I mean, he was 0.9 yards per route run. That's not great. So there was a lot of things that I didn't really like so much about the way that they sort of were targeting him, especially early on. So I think it's a mixed bag here. I think it's still TBD on all the players on both sides of the ball here, including even JJ, although I think he comes out, looking like roses or smelling like roses.
Absolutely. I think the biggest forehead slap moment last night was, I think it was during the Bears' final drive where he completely overthrew a wide open DJ Moore in the end zone. Did you see
Yes.
that?
So bad. Yes.
That was like, oh, holy shit. Oh my god. That might have been one of the biggest skid marks on the film last night. So,
Yeah, he also
yeah.
missed him on a fourth down. He had DJ across the middle and just airmailed one across the middle. He's got to be better. He's got to
Yeah.
be better. He can be better. That's the maddening thing with Kaleb, is like, we don't sit there and go, yeah, he's just not good enough. Like, it's like, dude, he does
No.
have some of this in his bag. Like the
Yeah.
throw to Adunze on the sideline when he was scrambling, where Adunze, I mean, that was amazing. So yeah, there were
Beautiful.
plays. There were plays, right? And so it was a mixed bag. I think that's the way I'm going to look at it. But let's get to the topic of the day. I want to ask you about my boy, Emeka Egbuka, but we're going to do so right after these messages. I am here with Zareh, and we are talking everything, man. This is going to be an epic show. I need to start with, I always like to get my arm worked out by patting myself on the back for all the great takes. Um, you know, pre NFL draft, I was told that Emeka Egbuka is in the Luther Burden tier. He's below Luther Burden. Luther Burden possesses higher upside, and that Tet and Travis Hunter are way above him. And I said, I don't think so. I think he's in the Tet and Travis Hunter tier. He may even be the top of that tier. I was mocked and ridiculed,
Yeah.
to steal a line from Mr. Felix Sharp. I was mocked and ridiculed. And now I do believe that it's basically that's correct. And I wonder if he is now the wide receiver one in this class, or am I getting a little too steamy? Because I liked what Tet did too.
No, I think you kind of have to make him the wide receiver one in this class. I mean, Burden barely saw the field last night. Tet's just, he's stuck in what appears to be another dumpster fire of a year in Carolina. And Hunter actually had really encouraging utilization.
Yep.
They did a lot of scheming for him, which is really what you want to see, especially for a rookie in his first year in the NFL. But I mean, Egbuka, he played with a lot of confidence in week one. And I think there was this really cool snip, this news article. I don't know if you saw it, where he went up to Baker Mayfield kind of in the last play where he got that second touchdown on that deep post. He called that play. He called that play to Baker Mayfield. Like, he told Baker, I need the post. Throw me the post. He went and got it. He won. He pretty much won the game for the Bucs. And his two touchdown passes actually were beautiful dimes by Baker Mayfield. Absolutely. One was nearly broken up, but Baker Mayfield put it on the spot, and Baker Mayfield still kind of played really well. But Egbuka had a absolute breakout game in his week one. In his first game of the season. There's no way to sugarcoat it. In a divisional game, the Bucs are the only team in that division right now that are 1-0. Every other team is 0-1. Pretty much par for the course for the NFC South. But I don't know why people were hating on Egbuka so much. Honestly, I don't know what kind of hate you got. I didn't see that. I didn't see that discourse going on between you and the community.
I feel like it was more like, he's not an elite player. He's just going to be a guy, he's just, they were talking about him like he was going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
his ceiling is maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just a slot guy who kind of does some, catch it and fall down stuff close to the line of scrimmage. I was like, that's not what we're seeing. And, this is Ohio State's leading all-time receiver, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he's played with great competition and still statistically was a stud. And that to me says something that, you can go to the next level and play alongside other great players, i.e. Godwin and Evans, and still be a guy. It wasn't, 2 touchdowns is great. The game winner, great. Still 6 targets, on 36 routes. He wasn't overly targeted. So, I think there's more to go there. He basically was halftime in the slot, halftime out wide. He did play a lot out wide. So I think that he never came off the field. I think that's all great. Like, it's Evans and Egbuka. And I think if and when Godwin comes back, there's going to be those 3 guys. And, that's the deal.
That's the thing everybody's waiting on, to see how convoluted it gets with Chris Godwin. And it probably will a little bit. Odds are that it probably will. But for the time being, between now until then, Egbuka has a really strong case to make for why it shouldn't be that way when Godwin returns. Egbuka has a really strong, Evans is probably like, it might be his last year. And Egbuka, already had a really strong performance. He called the final touchdown pass himself. The team, he just earned more trust than he's already been building on throughout the offseason. All you heard about how great Egbuka was. Evans was just kind of gushing about him all year or offseason. Baker Mayfield gushing about him all offseason. I think he's going to have a really strong case right now to make for becoming maybe the lead pass catcher on that team this year. I don't know. Yep. It's certainly possible with the way week one went. And 6 targets. Volume, I think volume is everything when it comes down to everything, right? 6 targets is probably, mid to low end wide receiver 2 kind of volume. And we like to see that more. And I am completely confident that we are going to see more target volume for him this year. We saw some. Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I think so too, because he was also targeted in the biggest spot in the game. Looked dope doing it. Granted, yes, it was a dot. No doubt Baker put it on him, but he just beat his man on the. He's like, I got the. The fact that he called his shot too. The fact that you said that, I did not know that. goes out there and basically like the post, I'm going to be fucking wide open, bro. So
Right.
like, let me run that because I know I'm wide. That's a pro. We've talked about him in the past and just said he's a pro. We're going to play a game. We're going to play a game, this or that, who we like better in Dynasty, because this is where we're at with Egbuka. I think we're going to play in this game with a couple players. I'm going to start where I think, where JJ Zacharyson came on the program and talked about, Odunze versus Egbuka, and I liked Egbuka more. Where are we at with Rome Odunze versus Emeka Egbuka in Dynasty? Who you got?
Oh, Egbuka right now. Yeah.
Yes, me too,
Yeah.
easily, but I'm just starting with the easy ones, right?
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate it.
yep, Egbuka, T. Higgins.
Egbuka.
Okay, Egbuka or Tet or Travis Hunter. I think you said you like him as wide receiver 1, so you want to notch him just ahead of those two guys?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Egbuka or Rashee Rice in Dynasty?
Rice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Egbuka or Garrett Wilson?
Yeah. That week 1 performance by Justin Fields made it a little bit harder. If you asked me before week 1, I would have said
Yeah,
Egbuka. Yeah. God damn, that's really difficult. These are really hard ones, man. And I know where you're probably Egbuka on this one too, right?
No, it's close.
Yeah.
Look, I have Egbuka ahead of Rice, and then it's like, okay, my point is I think he's in a tier now. When it's
Yeah.
hard, I think that's like, okay, he's in here. This is where he's at. And I think
Yeah.
that puts him right around somewhere between wide receiver 10 and 16, right?
I
In
think
that
I
little
think
group.
I think what we want to do right now, I think the method right now is not looking at his target volume for week 1 and using it, because I'm stuck in that target volume mindset, right? That's 6
Yeah,
targets.
me
I
too.
think it's let's get ahead of it, right? Let's get ahead of the Garrett Wilson. Let's get ahead of his value being behind Garrett Wilson right now, right? So I think
Yep.
if you want to do that game, and based on everything I just said, it should be Egbuka, right? So I mean, these are the kind of questions where you wrap a show and you go back and think about it, and you're like, no, it was Egbuka, and I've
Yeah.
done that plenty of times, right? So it's
Same.
probably Egbuka right now ahead of Wilson.
So I think like when we talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, JSN, those are the types of players, even Lad to a certain degree, but specifically Amon-Ra and JSN are the sort of prototypes of what Egbuka could be. A guy who's really effective from the slot, but can win outside, especially JSN showed that this week. You have him behind both those players in Dynasty, even though it sort of looks like he may be a carbon copy. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm gonna ask you this question. Okay, tell me if you agree with this. Top 5 dynasty wide receivers, in whatever order, but Neighbors, Chase, Jefferson, CD, Puka. I feel like
Yes.
that's top 5. Do you
Yes.
agree?
Yes.
I feel like it's like, okay, then I have a question. I was asking that question via text with the boys at the Underground, and of course they're wimps. They all like skirted the issue. They didn't answer. No, I'm joking. I'm just going to give them some hard time, but I think I've got my answer. So I want to ask you, who do you think is the wide receiver 6 in Dynasty right now?
The wide receiver 6 in Dynasty right now, I believe it is actually. I think I have Puka as my wide receiver 6 in Dynasty. I can't bring up my rankings right now because I told you that my internet connection just sucks right now. So if I bring up that window, the entire show might crash.
Let me
It's
give you
either
the candidates, okay?
yeah,
Because these are the candidates: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Lad McConkey, Drake London, JSN, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Brian Thomas Jr., Nico Collins, Emeka Egbuka. I think that's about right. That's about it. So like, I think BTJ was there.
yeah.
I have a little bit of I
I think
just
that's who
don't.
my wide receiver 6 is. Yeah.
So I'm taking Drake London. Drake London is in this offense. I feel like has the highest upside and the best floor right now. I think it's Drake London, wide receiver 6, right after Puka Nacua. I think I'd take him ahead of BTJ. BTJ's got to contend with the terrible quarterback play of Trevor Lawrence, which is an issue at this particular point that we can't get around, and the fact that they're scheming, Travis Hunter, who in his very first game, sort of, I mean, neither guy got home, but certainly, I don't know if he out targeted him. Actually, I think he did, right? I think he led the team in targets was Travis Hunter. So I don't know, man. If there's a little bit of 1A, 1B there, I think it sort of hurts him to some degree in terms of overall ceiling, where I think Drake London is clearly the man there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and especially when you look at the schemed up touches, I don't think that's a trend that's just a 1 week fluke. Those are strong coaching tendencies, and those tend to stick year after year. Brian Thomas Jr. may take a hit now. Yeah, unfortunately. I do also like JSN as a strong candidate. I mean, you like a guy who has a 50% target share week one. I mean, he's the only guy yeah, I think that's pretty good. He was the only guy. Everybody else, nobody got more than 3 targets behind JSN last week. JSN had, what did he have? 13 targets last week, maybe more.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker and Cooper Kupp tied for targets last week with 3 targets each. Maybe that might regress. It's probably going to regress, obviously, not maybe. Maybe it might balance out a bit, but I mean, JSN has always been that high target volume guy. And again, it's always been about volume. And, but you can also say this too about JSN. What is that? Does that hold if Jalen Milroe comes in? Because Jalen Milroe is the rusher, right? And say Darnold gets injured and Jalen Milroe comes in, you can kind of see a scenario where like, oh no, this might not be great for JSN's total target volume because these rushing quarterbacks just don't pepper like these pocket passers do. So there is also that kind of contingency for for JSN.
Well, I would say Drew Lock is just in the back room with his headphones on, rapping to some tunes, just waiting to take Jalen Milroe's spot when he fails too. So don't forget that. And then he'll just be YOLO ball to JSN all day long. So it could come all the way back around. I do think that's about right. I think there's kind of a big tier probably, because I like Ladd a lot there. I like Amon-Ra. I like JSN. I like those guys because they earn so many targets. There's a little bit of skepticism in Detroit. Let's talk about Detroit real quick because okay, how do I put this? Jahmyr Gibbs got 10 friggin' targets. Amon-Ra has been the target magnet in that offense. Sam Laporta was great. Also got a ton of targets this past week. And I've been told that both Jamison Williams is going to be a wide receiver 1 this year, and Isaac Tesla is going to, start to make something happen. Dude, there's not enough footballs to go around. If they all played on different teams, maybe. But this sounds like an absolute wish casting moment. What are your thoughts about what's happening in Detroit and the word salad I just gave you?
So I was just reading a really interesting report, film review on the Lions Wire today. I forgot the reporter's name. I wish I could drop his name. Sorry. But he was talking about what's going on right now with their current offensive coordinator and what Ben Johnson used to do. And I think if you know one key aspect or characteristic about Ben Johnson is that he used to layer plays on top of each other to set something else for later on in the game, set something up for later on in the game, right?
Yeah.
And Ben Johnson would sacrifice a down. Literally, he'd be like, I don't care if we get no gain or whatever happens on this play. I need to use this personnel package to set up something later on in the game, right? And so he gave an example of it was early in the game. They had 13 personnel going, so they had like 3 tight ends on the field, and they ran some play that didn't do anything. I think Jahmyr Gibbs took it for like a 2-yard gain or something, and then they just never showed that look again for the entire rest of the game, right? So they were just kind of calling plays for the sake of calling plays. And then he also said that the Lions showed up to play football that day, but the Packers showed up to play the Lions that day specifically. Like the Lions just didn't game plan enough that day. And I think the entire team that day just was terrible that entire day. Special teams, terrible. The trenches where the Lions get it done, Frank Ragnow retired. Graham Glasgow came in at center. Graham Glasgow, terrible game. Penei Sewell got smoked all game. Their pass rush, they had 0 sacks on the day, only 2 hurries or 2 pressures. Meanwhile, Jared Goff got sacked 4 times. And also, if you look at Jared Goff's history at Lambeau, he's been terrible for like the past 3-4 years. So that's also not encouraging. So maybe they get back on track based on Jared Goff's performance over the years. And I think, we have a relatively large sample size to reflect that on. And, going back at Ford Field, playing the Bears next week, maybe they get back on track. But it is worrying from the philosophical standpoint that you have this stark contrast in offensive philosophy play calling of not layering plays like Ben Johnson used to do last year. So that is kind of a stark contrast. Obviously they gave Jameson Williams the bag and they want to make him a feature player of this offense. And, maybe they just start force feeding. They'll probably start. I think things will get back on track. I don't think there's too much to worry about. There's a lot of talent on this offense to just go to waste. But we need Jared Goff to kind of be able to become his own man in a way and not rely so much on the play calling and the philosophy. I think, if this trend keeps up with the play calling, it might be a problem for Jared Goff in the offense. Amon-Ra getting, what he got? How many targets? 6 targets. Jameson Williams got 5 targets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
could
both
be a blip.
5. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. They basically played, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra, Laporta every down, basically. Kalif Raymond played a lot. And then Isaac Tesla ran 3 routes compared to Kalif Raymond's 33. The coach was saying we're going to get Dan Campbell, we're going to get Tesla more involved. Well, I mean, he could double his routes and still only have 6 routes. I don't know what more involved means. Does that mean that they sort of flip-flop the Kalif Raymond, Isaac Tesla situation where Tesla's playing, 15 to 20, running 15 to 20 routes and Kalif Raymond runs 15 to 20 routes, somewhere in there, or what? I don't know what that means. So, until we see Isaac Tesla on the field, his, 1 target, 1 catch touchdown does not do too much for me. It's fine. That's his utilization, but, you're not going to be able to start that, especially when we talk about, like, everybody. I feel like the same people who like Isaac Tesla, like Jameson Williams, like, where does all this production come from? Like, I just don't see it. I'm really dubious about Jameson and Tesla in this offense for as long as Amon-Ra, Laporta, and Gibbs are there, because it just feels like those are the guys who earn more targets. Obviously, Amon-Ra with 5 targets probably what would have matched his season low last year. So, maybe we can worry a little bit Amon-Ra's ceiling, sort of the upside if they're going to sort of spread it around a little bit more. But I think there's still a too crowded a room for Tesla or Jameson to get where people want him to get to. I would be selling Jameson as I've been doing this whole time.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and you can kind of see that. Jameson Williams got schemed up really well last year. I think if you watch Jameson Williams' film last year, I think Ben Johnson did a really good job of getting Jameson Williams in space, right? So like there was like these certain routes that he ran, like he would run a drag route underneath, like 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then you'd have 2 deep routes on that same side of the field running clear outs, taking the DBs with him, and Jameson Williams would just have nothing but green grass in front of him. And that wasn't the case every time, right? Jameson Williams ran really well routes, deep routes really well. But that's an example. Those are big chunk gains that add a lot of. It's like 4, 5, 6, 7 points for your fantasy team on one play because of Ben Johnson layering plays together and understanding how to get those guys in space and understanding the rhythm of the game and understanding the timing of certain things and when to call certain shots. So it might be worrisome, and it's really interesting because when we look at week 1 and we look at these kinds of performances, huge dips, these come out of nowhere performances that kind of raise the flag. Week 1's always like, okay, it's week 1. But when it happens in week 2, it's the polar opposite reaction, right? It's kind of like, okay, these are 2 data points in what is basically, and it's an 18-week season, but 17 weeks for fantasy football. And 2 weeks is a lot when you think about this length of a football season. So this could quickly go from it's week 1 blip to week 2, holy shit, what am I going to do with this guy on my fantasy team? Do I get rid of him? That's why these discussions are so important to be had within the week, in the week between games, because you're trying to figure out what to do before it's holy shit time, so.
Yeah. Well, and I sent a tweet. It didn't get too much traction because, of course, it was rooted in logic and reason. The ones that's why nobody looked at it. But I was talking about Jameson Williams, and I'm just going to share with you, like one of the thoughts is that, like, because he had I think it was 88 targets last year or something like that, 80 something targets, and he was, I think he was 11.7 yards per target. I mean, he scored 7 touchdowns on those 80 targets. I mean, he was his touchdown percentage and his his yards per target were through the roof. So I said, okay, so the idea is, well, if he gets more targets, just kick him up a little bit, and he's going to be a wide receiver one. Is sort of the idea. That's where people are going with this. Hey, he's the player he is. He just needs a little bit more, and that doesn't sound right to me because it's the same thing that we were talking about with Marvin Mims. It's like, just because Marvin Mims was going for 20 yards a catch and just making huge plays and the minimal opportunities he's getting doesn't mean I can just extrapolate that and say, yeah, if he triples his targets from 50 to 150, he's Randy Moss. It's like, that's not how it works. First of all, you have to earn those targets, which he's never done. Jameson, that is, has never really earned targets. His college career, he earned targets at a 19.2% rate. He's earned targets at a 17% rate in his NFL career. So I don't see it happening. But even if you say, okay, he's going to get 100 plus targets, I looked at there's in history, players who got 100 plus targets, 11 yards per target or more than 100 targets, more than 11 yards per target, and at least 8 touchdowns. It happened 15 times. And it's like, you look at it's like Victor Cruz in 11, Mike Evans, Jerry Rice, Jamar Chase, Randy Moss, Mark Clayton. Waddle did it one year. Godwin did it one year. Nico Collins in 23. It's just a random assortment. It's not something that you're like, no, this is something that we see. We don't see someone going over 100 targets and getting that type of efficiency. It's like one off. Even Jamar Chase and Randy Moss and Jerry Rice all did it only once, right? They don't get to that. It's like a magical season. You just never see that type of thing. And so I don't think that's the way I'd be planning for Jameson Williams to get there. Yeah, he's a big play player. I agree. He's electric, but I don't think he's got the target earning ability to get there. But if he does, the efficiency is going to have to come down because that's how it works. And even in this particular game, yeah, the efficiency wasn't there because, of course, it can't be there that consistently.
Also, you have to think about, what are your expectations for Jameson Williams in your lineup? And where did we get him? I think you got him relatively. I think Jameson Williams, a lot of Jameson Williams bag holders right now got him relatively cheap because he started the first 2 years of his career so rocky. So I think you don't really have to invest too much into Jameson Williams to also think about panicking on him. Because if you think about where you got him, you didn't invest too much in him. And also, he finished as the wide receiver 19, I think, in half PPR leagues last year. So, the expectations maybe might have been too flamed up for Jameson Williams coming into the year based on what he did last year. Maybe it's our faults, or not your fault. Maybe it's, whoever's faults for not your fault. Yeah, obviously not your fault for steaming him up to. And also there was a lot of talk of him becoming the bigger, a more complete wide receiver this year, right? So there was so many reports, in the spring season of Jameson Williams improving as a route runner, becoming more complete, getting bigger, whatever it is. So he got steamed up quite a bit. And if he doesn't live up to that steam, I think what were people expecting him for finish as a top 12 wide receiver?
I think
that's not going to happen.
No,
that was never going to happen. Yeah.
I think people were seeing a huge ceiling and a big up. And look, it's still possible. I just don't see it because of the target earning. Normally you just want to see some history of earning a bunch of targets at some point so that you can say he's going to earn targets. But when you don't see that, and then you see target earners all around him, that's the other part. It's like if he was, I don't know, if he was in Atlanta, I'd be like, dude, maybe, because I can see a path for him to have some big plays next to, a couple guys. There's 2 target earners there. It's just a little bit more space for him to make that happen there. But again, I just don't see it with, Gibbs and Amon-Ra, and even Laporta is pretty good. So, and now we have Isaac Tesla to worry about. He's taking all your fun plays, Jameson. Oh no, we didn't see that coming. The Isaac Tesla dunking on Jameson Williams for the fun plays in the end zone. Sorry. So I'm ready to pat myself on the back again and try to not take my pants off during the program. Harold motherfucking Fannin, bro. Right. Holy smokes. Yeah. I feel like I've won something. I nothing's happened yet, but I feel like I won something. Tell me.
I think you did. And I definitely wasn't all the way there like you were on Fannin. I like the product. I just didn't believe the utilization would be there, especially to open the season. And
Right.
I know Matt Walden was one of the flag carriers for a Fannin too. And I know Fannin was going like late third round in rookie drafts, fourth round
Yeah.
sometimes. I mean, it was crazy. And then you kind of look at like, okay, he was used all over the place in week 1, right? You look at their personnel packages, 12-man personnel packages. They led the league in week 1 in 12-man
Yep.
personnel packages. They were at like 70% or something. I don't know, something ridiculous, plus 60% easily. Last year, their 12-man personnel play rate was at like 25th or 24th in the league. So you could just make the argument that, oh no, we're going to make an adjustment for a Harold Fannin to be on the field as much as possible. We don't need this third wide receiver bullshit. We're going to go Tillman, Judy, Njoku, Fannin. We're going to put Fannin all over the place. This
Yep.
guy, Fannin is the Joker. Fannin
Yep.
is the Joker of the Year
Yes.
award right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That
Yeah.
is absolutely correct. I mean, he is the Joker because we saw him in the backfield. Like he was playing fullback, lead block. I was like, dude, they totally get it with this guy because wherever you put him, the defense uh, has to kind of lock into what they're doing. Are we playing nickel? Are we light? Are we heavy? What are we doing? What kind of player sort of gets put onto Fan? Is it a linebacker? Is it a corner? Is it a safety? Just dictating by personnel, they're going to have to tell you exactly what they're going to have to do with Fannin because obviously they're not going to switch a safety or a linebacker onto one of the receivers, so we kind of know right off the get. And yeah, I just think it was great. And Dylan Sampson played pretty well and kind of surprised me. He got 8 targets in this game as well. So that was pretty cool. But getting back to Harold Fannin, I do think that, look, I've said it ad nauseum. The play for Harold Fannin was very simple. If he's good, which by all accounts, we should have thought, hey, he probably is good because he was literally the dopest player on his team. And when they played good competition, he was still dope. And, but of course he did a duck-footed, run at the what do they call that thing? In
Combine.
the gauntlet. He ran a
The gauntlet.
duck-footed gauntlet at the combine. So for sure, let's throw out, 3 years of unbelievable performance for sure. That it was a close call. I couldn't figure out which one to look at. The body of work for an amazing football player or one duck-footed gauntlet drill. That you gotta know what data points to look at. But now I think if you're right, if they're going to use him as slot and all over the place, in and out of the backfield, rushing the football, he's got huge ceiling now at this point because he can be a volume target. And a volume target, as they exist at the tight end position, is the most rarest thing that you can actually count on actual volume every week. A lot of times, like TJ Hawkinson got like 3 targets. He was basically invisible. He's a hell of a football player. He played well, but he's just not used in that way. This role, that Joker role, the Kelsey role, the sort of I'm involved because I'm a really great route runner in the middle of the field and can create mismatches depending upon what the defense is doing, is so valuable. I'm not sure how much I would pay for Harold Fannin, but it's a lot right now. 2 second-round picks, no problem. Let's go. I think I'm going to ask you a little this or that. What are your thoughts about his value right now? Are you with me here, or do you think I'm maybe getting a little silly?
No, 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you also look at, he's in the Tyler Warren role. Tyler Warren and him, they're both jokers of their own offense. This is what you want to see. You want to see a massive amount of utilization in a bunch of different ways. You want to see these guys used all over the field, moved all around the lineup. This is what you want to see. You don't want to see one static position from these guys. And a nod to Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski for doing this.
Yep,
and
exactly.
I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting Dylan Sampson to get 8 targets in week 1. I was like, no, dude, Jerome Ford's a good play. Start him. But, I was like, dude, this is awesome what they're doing right now in Cleveland. Like, good job. Tommy Rees's first year as an offensive coordinator being like, no, dude, we're fucking putting this guy in the lineup. We're getting Dylan Sampson 8 targets. We don't care. You love to see this as offensive coordinators. It kind of like we can, like Greg Roman, what they're doing right now with Justin Herbert. They're like, no, dude, we're not running the ball. We're going to pass the shit out of the ball. Right? That's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing with Justin Herbert with these weapons. We're not going to lean on the run game. Hopefully that trend continues. But this is what I'm talking about with OCs, and you have to like kind of consider this stuff when you're putting these guys on your fantasy teams. Who's running the show? And we didn't have a track record with Tommy Rees.
Right.
Kevin Stefanski has had a really difficult time. He's had horrible QB play the entire time. And Joe Flacco is probably the baseline for what we need to get these guys targets. And again, it's going to be, please God, let Joe Flacco stay healthy, or don't let Joe Flacco get benched for, I mean, Dylan Gabriel probably wouldn't be horrible. I think that's probably, you can get the ball down to Harold Fannin, but
dude,
yeah.
Well, Flacco played great. His 2 interceptions hit his players first in the hands. Like, his 2 picks were not picks. They outplayed the Bengals. They should have won that game.
They should have won. The field goal got missed.
And an extra point. Yeah, there was just, and the 2 interceptions are absolute garbage. I mean, so they played way, way well enough to win. They held Cincinnati to 7 yards in the second half. I heard that. I'm like, that is crazy. 7 yards from the Bengals in any half ever for any reason whatsoever. Like, literally is, I never thought I'd see the day.
That's pretty wild.
Okay, here we go. Harold Fannin in Dynasty. Okay, who you got? Harold Fannin in Dynasty or David Njoku?
Fannin.
Harold Fannin in Dynasty or TJ Hawkinson?
Fannin.
Fannin or Tucker Kraft?
Fannin.
Okay, here we go. Gets harder.
Yeah.
So George Kittle just got hurt. He's 30-something years old. He's obviously the best tight end in the league, but he's hurt. He's 30 years old. Whatever, 31 maybe. I don't even know. 32. How old is he? He's getting older. North of 30. George Kittle or Harold Fannin in Dynasty?
Fannin.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So I think this is right. So Colson Loveland or Harold Fannin?
Fannin.
He's the tight end 5.
Yeah.
He's the tight. Yeah. He is the tight end 5 in Dynasty. Is that right?
Is in consensus?
No, for in real. Me and you, are we saying that?
Yeah. That sounds right. That sounds right.
Wow, I have him.
Okay, wait.
I feel like I'm kind of cuckoo. I'm like, Scott Easy does it, man. But
keep going. Who else? Who else? Who else could you? Who else?
Then it's the top 4. It's Bowers, McBride, Warren, Laporta. I can't move him ahead of any of those guys.
Not Laporta?
I mean, I suppose Laporta was a tight end 1 overall in his rookie year. Earned targets at an incredible level last year after dealing with injury, and got 8 targets in his first game. I don't think you can do it.
Okay.
I can't do that.
I don't know so much for Laporta for the same reason that we were making the same argument for Jameson Williams. It's a crowded room. I think Laporta had a great year in his rookie year because he was a second option on that team before Jameson Williams was even ready to go. I mean, he was it. Then Jameson Williams came back. Yeah, Laporta was injured last year, so probably the jury's still out. But I still think Laporta is going to be, because what they're doing right now with Fannin is he's a key part of that offense. He's a priority in that offense. So I think I would put him above Laporta. Yeah, Laporta had a breakout year, but again, I think that was due to Laporta being the second option on a really good offense, as opposed to now you got Tesla, you got Gibbs, Amon-Ra, and Jameson Williams on that team. All are fantastic players, and I think it's going to be a lot harder for Laporta to get his get his nut, if you will.
This. I love it. I mean, this is great. I mean, I don't know what to say. Okay, I'm going to go one more tight end here.
Okay.
I had to put the Kyle Pitts ointment on all off season to make sure I didn't get a rash or anything like that. I've avoided the pits. I didn't get any pits on me, but now I'm starting to wonder if I should have been buying low, because I thought Kyle Pitts looked good too. The thing about it is we've been watching Kyle Pitts for 2 years, and it's like, dude, that does not look good. This past week, he looked really good. I don't know if this is temporary week 1 thing, and maybe the injuries that he's had are going to flare back up. I'm not a doctor, but he looked really, really good and was moving like I hadn't seen him move in several years. Should we be buying into Kyle Pitts being a real top 8 dynasty tight end again?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, if you look at, we got to again think about whose quarterbacks have been. He's had Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and end of year Matt Ryan. Maybe I'm missing somebody else, but I mean, that was who was delivering the ball to him the entire time. And then last year with Kirk Cousins, before Kirk Cousins fell off completely, I think it was 10 games or 9 games before Kirk Cousins fell off, Kyle Pitts had five top 12 finishes with Kirk Cousins delivering the ball, right? I mean, yeah, you give the guy a good quarterback. You give the guy like Michael Penix, who is an awesome prospect, Matt Waldman's favorite quarterback prospect of last year. You give him somebody who can deliver the ball competently and he can play well. I mean, is that like such a crazy concept for people to grasp their minds around? Like, we can't have dog water quarterbacks delivering the ball, running the offense, man. The whole entire offense runs from the pocket. It comes from who's throwing the ball, who's making the decisions with the ball in their hands. And yeah, Kyle Pitts absolutely can make a resurgence. His ADP was insane, man. His ADP was insane in best ball drafts this entire year. He was like tight end 15, 16, 17. What? Did everybody just hate Michael Penix or Kyle Pitts? I mean, I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. And I think, this week, and I will tone it down. I will bring it back down a bit. And I will say that I think Kyle Pitts last week I wish I could see the film, but I think he got a good amount of targets after Drake London left the game. I'm not sure, but again, I'm not too concerned overall about that with Michael Penix at the helm.
Neither am I. Here's the other thing that I think I have criticized Kyle Pitts as not good enough as a X receiver for them to play him there so much. Like, he's played over 25% of the time at X, basically out wide. That's way too much. They only played him 14% out there this past. That's the lowest. That would be by far the lowest of his career. That 14% number. Instead, he was basically career high in line at only 38%, which is fine, and mostly in the slot about 50% of the time. To me, that's about right. Matter of fact, I'd probably try and almost eliminate those wide looks unless you're doing the thing they did with Gronk. I remember they'd have this sort of setup where he would be inside, and then they know they were getting man, and the linebacker would be on him, and they just shift to Gronk being out wide, and this linebacker kind of like going, uh-oh, I've got to go out there. And like, you'd sort of see the fear in his eyes as a linebacker would chase him out wide, and then it was over. I'm okay with Kyle Pitts ISO'd outside against a linebacker. I'm not okay with Kyle Pitts lining up unironically as an X wide receiver, thinking he's going to, beat, NFL corners out there. I just don't think he's that type of player. I think he's a mismatch, especially in the slot. And I thought that, and in line, especially if there's some play action stuff where, again, the other thing I'll tell you, he was 4.9 ADOT. Like, that's hardly anything. I mean, he's been basically 11 or 12 ADOT his whole career. 4.9, basically 5 yards down the field. I think they were getting him a little bit easier touches. And if they're going to continue to do all of those types of things in terms of usage, I'm into Kyle Pitts with that usage. It's just like you mentioned with Fannin and how they're using him. If they're used appropriately, they can return value. So that is why I'm maybe back in on Pitts, and he looked healthy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, his ADP alone should have been something to capitalize on this entire offseason. So, I mean, yeah, and you look at the trends last year, and again, what we discussed, and you brought up his utilization. It all looks really good for Kyle Pitts this year. So, and Penix loved throwing to him. He said we're gonna get the ball to him in training camp. We're gonna get the ball to him as much as possible. So, yeah, seems good for Pitts.
Let's talk about rookie running backs. Okay, rookie running backs. I think a lot of times there's an opportunity to buy low on rookie running backs. I've mentioned this before the season. I was saying there's going to be a window for all these running backs, so be ready. And we've seen it with JT and Nick Chubb and countless others, players who come out of the box and didn't do the thing we want them to do immediately. So we say maybe they're not that good or whatever. We panic early, and then they're fucking dope. I'm not sure who's dope or who's not, but I think there's some buy opportunities. I wrote this show sheet before Tank Bigsby was traded, so that's going to change one of the guys on this list. But let's start at the very top. Omarion Hampton. I think some people, I don't even understand how you'd be down on him after week 1. I mean, his utilization was through the roof. He looked pretty good. He made some bonehead plays. Okay, so that's fine. He's a rookie. I'm not that surprised by all that. I thought he looked like a proper lead back. My concern has always been and still is the targets. Given everything that that they did well, they did not target the running back, and they continue not to target the running back. That is, head coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback all have the tendency against targeting running backs. But outside of that, I feel like it's wheels up on Omarion. You buying in?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I will say this one thing real quick, that I do think Najee Harris obviously will be more incorporated as his eye heals up a little bit.
Yeah.
They just, they've always used a two-back system, and I think that Najee Harris will be there kind of like as a needle or a thorn in his side, in Hampton's side. But I'm definitely still buying on Hampton. His path to RB1 finishes, I mean, it's going to be tough, a little bit tough this year. But the offense he's on is actually really good. And I'm kind of sorting this out right now as I'm talking about it, because I didn't give Hampton a lot of thought yet. But I mean, I'm still there as a dynasty. What is he? What do you have him ranked right now? Do you have him as a dynasty RB1 right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I have the top three of Genty, Gibbs, Bijan, and then I have Omarion and Travion still. And I'm not going away from that. I do think those are the next guys I would want.
Yeah, I think he's safe in that. I mean, especially given the environment that he's in. He's a good football player. Also, we should also consider that. So yeah, I'm still totally fine with Marion Hampton. What exactly are people freaking out about with him?
Yeah, I mean that he didn't score 10 fantasy points. You know what I mean? It was a fantasy point result based analysis that I think people panic on. I've got a friend who's he's brand new to fantasy, coworker, and I literally helped him draft, and it was awesome. One of the other guys was like, "Dude, pretty good for your first time, bro." And I was like, "Yeah, you had a little help, but he drafted Amari, and he's like, dude, what the fuck?" I'm like, that's what happens, right? Guys just sort of look at their lineup, look at the points, and go, "Is he good?" It's like, yeah, of course he is. This analysis that we do of actual player understanding and utilization and everything isn't everybody in every league. And I think that's where you can maybe buy low, where someone's like, a little bit, I'm not so sure. My point here is that I still think, even as someone who believes in Omarion, I still think the pass catching is not going to be great. Even in this game, I don't know how many targets there were, but a lot. And only 3 went to the running backs. Najee had 1, and Omarion had 2. Omarion was in 25 routes run, only 2 targets. So very, very low percentage going to the running backs, and I just don't foresee them. Even when they're in comeback mode, I think they proved it, right? It was Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey with 9 and 10 targets, and then Quentin Johnson with 7. Everybody else got sort of a smattering of targets, but I think that's the way they're going to play. They're not going to be throwing the ball to the running back over and over again like some offenses do.
No, that's the expectation, though. I mean, that's the expectation when you drafted Omarion Hampton. There's going to be a sprinkling. This is why, I don't really have a fire take for it, like a hot, crazy, unique perspective on it, because that's what it is. This is the offense he's in. They don't target running backs. Najee Harris is going to be involved some. It's going to be a pain in the ass sometimes. But Omarion Hampton is a fantastic football player. You keep him you keep good players on your teams that are part of good offenses. It's as simple as that. I mean, I don't know what else to say about Omarion Hampton. Right. If you're disappointed by his week 1 performance, then you shouldn't be. I mean, it's his week 1 performance, and he's going to have a fantastic year as a running back.
Yeah, I agree. What about Travion? Travion got a little less run, was pretty effective, but any panic to Travion?
No, not at all. No, I mean, if you the Patriots, I believe, I think had 2 rush attempts in the second half of last week's game. For whatever reason, Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels thought, let's not run it at all in the second half of last week's game. When in the first half, it wasn't terrible, but you need to run the ball to a certain extent, because what was happening in that game, I went back to watched it, in the second half, when you're not running the ball, linebackers are just dropping in coverage. No one is playing the run at all. Drake May had a passer rating of, I know we're talking about Travion, but this is a holistic perspective. It was a game plan thing. It wasn't a Travion thing. Drake May had a passer rating, PFF passer rating of 80 something in the first half, and then he was down at 60 in the second half, because they just, for whatever reason, said, we're not throwing the ball. And now Drake May, who had a pretty good overlooked performance in the first half as a passer, he was throwing pretty good. Just couldn't do anything in the second half because he was throwing against DBs and now 3 extra linebackers the entire second half. So that will get back on track. Mike Vrabel he's a guy who loves to run the ball. Ramondre Stevenson probably won't go away this year. So what? TreVeyon Henderson is going to be a really fantastic running back. And again, this comes back to Marion Hampton, right? Like, these guys are fantastic running backs. If people are freaking out about them and don't have the context about what happened within the game, go get them. Go get for TreVeyon Henderson whatever you could. What do you think you can? What do you think is like a cheap low ball offer right now? You can get TreVeyon Henderson for.
I love selling running backs within, running back to running back. I pick up profit, and I wonder. Let's look at the running back landscape real quick, because I'm wondering. First of all, I love Breece Hall. I love Breece Hall coming in. A little bit of a victory lap there for me, but I guess the Saquon Barkley. Can you sell Saquon for TreVeyon plus? I think you can, right? Can you sell Chase Brown and get TreVeyon? Probably. Right. So I think Bucky Irving, players like that. Jacobs, can you sell Jacobs and get yourself TreVeyon plus or something? I don't, who knows, right? I certainly would be willing to look if you're starting TreVeyon. It was a little bit disappointing. There's a couple of leagues where I'm very running back light, and I did start TreVeyon. There's a couple spots where I was like, I don't need to start him, although I was really looking for that upside. Conversely, by the way, they did target the running back 10 times in New England versus only 3 times in Los Angeles with the Chargers. So I do think that's all going to turn around. I mean, he had 6 targets in the game. I'm fine. Like, he's going to get more playing time. He only ran 18 routes and got 6 targets. Like, give me all of that. That to me is what I'm looking for. That rate won't continue, but the big plays will come. He only had 24 yards, 4 yards per catch. I guarantee you he's not going to do that for his career, right? So there was some stuff that wasn't all that good. Ramondre ran 23 to TreVeyon's 18 routes. I think that changes over time. I think that becomes, Ramondre closer to 10, TreVeyon closer to 30. And I think that would be more normal. And I think Ramondre will continue to see the ball, on the ground, which I think is fine. He's a good running back. We like Ramondre. So I think as long as we continue to see, 6 targets per game, lock it in. If I got that from TreVeyon every week this year, we are absolutely fine.
TreVeyon Henderson is going to be, again, I think I've been brought this up twice already. It's the expectation you should have had with TreVeyon Henderson coming into the year. He is not going to be an early down, heavy volume running back like Ramondre Stevenson is. This is TreVeyon Henderson is an explosive pass catching weapon who is actually a good pure running back as well, but it's just not going to be like that in this offense. I think you need to just have patience, and if you can go buy low, buy low. It's gonna Drake May. Honestly, if you can buy low on Drake May too, you should, because this entire second half of the game was completely off kilter, and they just had poor game planning for the entire year, for the entire week.
For the entire game, yeah. Hey, this sounds like a riddle, but Demario Douglas, 5 targets, and he has negative 0.05 yards per route run. That's that's a tough one to get there. He was 5 targets, negative 2 yards, 2 catches, and a touchdown. It's incredible.
They threw a bunch of passes behind the line of scrimmage, I think. I think I saw a next gen stat chart that showed a bunch of passes behind the line of scrimmage. So that's going to have to change.
Unbelievable.
Maybe buy low on Demario Douglas.
Maybe. Or buy low on the guys behind him like Chisholm and Kyle Williams, who could, obviously if Demario plays that poorly, so to speak, if he's not productive at that level. But maybe it's a buy low on Demario. I'm not sure. If he's playing, he's going to get targeted. He got 5 targets in the game. So, but the guy I tried to ask Coach Speak last week. I should have asked you last week because you had something fired up for Boutte. I thought Boutte could be sneaky. I'm glad I have it on wax as asking last week. I wasn't that strong with the take, but Kayshon Boutte goes out 8 targets, 6 catches, 103. Doesn't score, but he looked really good out there.
Yeah, I've been such a Boutte guy all off season, and it's just because of what Boutte did last year with Drake May. In games played with Drake May, he had over 500 receiving yards, led the team in receiving yards. He tied Demario Douglas in targets. There were steady improvements last year. There were flashes, small windows you had to look for. I think against at Houston, like he mossed Eric Stingley on a touchdown reception at Houston. I think it was like week 18, week 17 later on in the season. So there were these small flashes of him and May performing well together, and again that showed up again in week 1. We didn't hear anything from Boutte really much from Boutte as far as like your Twitter X timeline. Not much news from Kayshon Boutte. If you went to 32 Beat Writers, there was a lot of news about Kayshon Boutte on the player feed, and no news isn't necessarily bad news on a player, right? So you have to kind of don't just chase the steam. I mean, Kyle Williams was the guy who thought everybody was going to step in as the wide receiver too. I retweeted a Patriots beat writer journalist tweet saying that Boutte is going to be the wide receiver 3 for that team, ahead of Kyle Williams, and that got a lot of hate, saying that's completely ridiculous. Kyle Williams is the guy. One of the reasons I'm in on Boutte is also like his price, his cost. I am a bargain hunter in Dynasty. Jax, Scott, you are honestly the opposite kind of Dynasty manager that I am. You like to make a lot of trades, I think, right? Like you like to
sure.
But I
do like bargains. I mean, for
who
sure.
Doesn't like a bargain?
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, I was just basically looking at what happened last year with Drake May, and I was thinking, okay, things are looking good. There's a lot of good signal for Boutte to carry on that momentum. You got Stephon Diggs coming in injured, older player. And Matt Collins, journeyman, hasn't really done anything his entire career. So,
lest we forget, too, that Kayshon Boutte was a premium asset as a college player. Like he was, one of these guys that the Devy community will tell you, yeah, this was like one of the, first round talent at some point in sort of projected rookie drafts until it just didn't go well for him in the process. And so he does have a pretty good, resume and pedigree. So the fact that he played well, he was PFF's highest rated offensive player in the pass game, excuse me, for New England. He was best in ADOT, best in yards per route run. He was really good in this game. He was their best player on offense. So, that's one game, but, one game turns into two. If it does, we'll start to have a trend here. I think, getting Boutte, as you point out, is free. If he ends up being, if he ends up being as good as Jameson Williams for the price you get him at, you know what I mean? It's like, trade Jameson Williams for a first round pick in Boutte, and you probably just get a free first round pick.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a thought to dwell on, actually. I acquired a bunch of Boutte. Obviously, I was just sticking him on all my bench spots. And they got a game against Miami this week at Miami as well. Wow. So that's going to be probably another strong Boutte showing, and I think the Patriots get back on track in a really, really great matchup this week.
I love that. They better. Otherwise, I'm going to, have to eat a lot of crow. Speaking of eating crow, those who support Kaleb Johnson, which was kind of me at some point, although I cooled a little bit. One share, one care out of 20 some odd leagues. I'm almost 0 shares, 0 cares. Couldn't trade him for anything once the news started getting a little bit negative with him. Now we see Kenny Gainwell and Jaylen Warren running ahead of him. He basically got nothing. Now he is a rookie. There's some things we can say, okay, well, it's going to turn around from. They're going to get him on the field, but not a good signal in week 1. Not a good signal in the offseason. Not enough draft capital to really bank on that, as he was a late third round pick nonetheless. Are we worried, or is this a buy-in situation where you can rebuy back in here? But like I've said, you can buy these rookies when they're down.
What did you expect was going to happen? He's a third-round pick. Look at what happened with Arthur Smith and Bijan Robinson during Bijan Robinson's rookie year. It was very frustrating for Bijan Robinson owners in fantasy football with Arthur Smith. They thought, he was heavily critiqued for not using Bijan Robinson more. And Bijan Robinson is worlds away a much better athlete and running back than Kaleb Johnson. And here comes Kaleb Johnson getting offseason hype, already being crowned the team's, RB1 ahead of Jaylen Warren, who Jaylen Warren already is a good between the tackles runner, really good yards after contact ability, really great pass catcher, experienced seasoned vet. Kaleb Johnson having little to no receiving profile coming out of college, you can hold Kaleb Johnson. He'll probably beat out Kenny Gainwell sometime this year. But I mean, if your expectations of Kaleb Johnson were being a rock solid RB1 in a Aaron Rodgers led offense, that's probably not going to be the case this year, because I mean, again, you have to look at what Arthur Smith was. I mean, Bijan Robinson finished as the RB10 in points per game with Arthur Smith, and that was because I think he started to be more appropriately utilized towards the end of his rookie year. Bijan Robinson did. Again, Kaleb Johnson is just not the same type of player that Bijan Robinson was. So let's adjust expectations for Kaleb Johnson. You know, if you're going to buy him, adjust your expectations for him and pay those prices based on those expectations. Which I wouldn't be paying, honestly. I would not be paying like a first round pick for Kaleb Johnson right now. I just can't do it.
I was going to say the max you can pay is a second, maybe
a second,
some more than that. You know, like a second, third, or second in a Jameson Williams type. No, I'm joking. Yeah,
a lot of Jameson Williams.
Just dunking Isaac Tesla in a second. Yeah, sure, whatever. But yeah, no. I think I'm a little nervous there for sure. It's certainly not going to be something. Look, I think here's actually the take. I think in Dynasty, you can wait. You can wait till that Kaleb Johnson owner becomes even more frustrated with this, and you can do something silly with, something that doesn't even make any sense, and probably find a way to get Kaleb on your roster for very, very little. I always, I don't know if you guys all listen to Goat District, but they've got that intro music. They're always like, there's some sort of rap, and they're like, you put a bunch of things in there and make it confusing as part of the rap. And I'm like, that's exactly right. You put a bunch of shit in the trade to make it confusing. But yeah, you throw in a bunch of stuff that doesn't actually mean anything to you. It's not valuable in the league that you play in because there's duplicity or some, backup tight. I don't know, the tight end 15 in Dynasty is never playing for you because you already have Tyler Warren or something. I don't know, just throwing some stuff in there. And then all of a sudden you're like, you got a second round pick and Kaleb, and you're like, sweet, there we go. So yeah, make a confusing trade offer to your league mate after they're totally frustrated with Kaleb, and I think you'd be able to get him. All that being said, I think I've got, put it this way, Dylan Sampson or Kaleb Johnson in Dynasty right now.
Right now, I think I'm going probably Kaleb Johnson in that.
I think good answer because there's still Judkins coming. Judkins still coming. He's probably going to start this week.
Dylan Sampson's not getting 8 targets a game.
No, probably not. Probably not. That's not going to be his career average. Judkins coming back. You in or out on this Judkins situation?
I'm in. Yeah. I'm definitely in on that. Yeah. It's everybody paid a first round pick for him early in their offseason, and they're holding those. And I don't think anybody's selling those, especially now with him coming back. And with the way this offense is performing, everybody's kind of like ragging on the Cleveland Browns. Like, hey, it's Cleveland Browns. What are they going to do this year? Blah, blah, blah. What can you get from this offense? Well, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. It's looking adequate, right? It's not dumpster fire.
But yeah.
It's not. And it's not dumpster fire levels right now. I think they're looking pretty. They're looking. They can hold the line as far as fantasy value goes this year.
Yeah, if you can give Flacco a little bit of time, he can still deliver the ball. I mean, if there's pressure, I question how well he can still move. Obviously, it's not well. It never was all that well. So, yeah, their offensive line is going to have to hold up for him, but we'll see how that goes. RJ Harvey, what are your thoughts there?
Just as I love RJ Harvey. Yeah,
dude,
I think
great.
He looked great. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, he was amazing. He was navigating his blocks, in the trenches so well. He was cutting so well, moving with such great agility. He looked fantastic. I'm so excited. I want to acquire so much RJ Harvey. I had one guy in my comments he wasn't flaming me, but I think I sensed a little bit of grief because I told him to start RJ Harvey over Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt this week. And I was like, well, I mean, they both had the same amount. They both had the same snap share. It's really a toss-up. I mean, what are you going to do? JCM got the touchdown. But, I mean, RJ Harvey's going to have the better career overall.
Yep. No. Yeah. And by the way, JCM looked good.
He looked great. He did.
Yeah, the Chris Rodriguez healthy scratch, I did not see that coming. Basically, JCM and Chris Rodriguez basically play the same role in that offense, and they basically chose Bill over Rodriguez, and that's as simple as I can say it because they don't need both those guys active if they're on the same game. So yeah, that's That's a feather in his cap for sure.
It's he's going to need more. We're going to hope. I mean, he had Ja'Cory Cross-Gamera, I think, had about a 30% snap share in week 1. I think we all anticipate that to grow. In week 2, he looked great. Washington did a really good job of running against. They were actually pretty good box advantages for Washington versus the New York Giants. But Ja'Cory Cross-Gamera, I mean, he looked better than actually I remember him running in college. Like, he was cutting really well. He was negotiating angles very well. And again, Deebo Samuel only got 1 rush attempt, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, I think, is the biggest concern because he gets a plus 25% rush share on the ground on average. So that puts a ding in JCM's value. But I mean, yeah, overall, I mean, JCM is as opposed to where you got him, which was like free everywhere in Dynasty, and not so much in redraft because he got steamed up as the season opened. But yeah, I mean, you're happy about that. You're excited about that. Great offense. I think it's wheels up for JCM too.
So you put Kaleb ahead of Dylan Sampson correctly, I think. However, we've got to talk about what about JCM versus these guys. I mean, I think they're all in the same bucket. Like JCM or Kaleb in Dynasty. Like that sounds crazy, but I think you've got to think about it.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, I think what people are kind of, it's a 7th round pick versus a 3rd round pick, right? I mean, yeah. And these are the kind of bold decisions you have to make as a dynasty manager. Am I going to take that leap right now, or am I selling JCM to the Kaleb Johnson owner right now for that and a little bit more? And I don't think that's a bad idea as well.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be able to project this kind of stuff in the future. I think JCM he established himself really well in week 1. I think I'm going to go JCM above Kaleb in Dynasty,
so close.
Man.
Here's the thing. Like it was, obviously Kaleb was in that top 5 that we drafted in rookie drafts, with Judkins and Travion and Omarion and Genty, and then Kaleb was sort of there. We then had the Scatabo Tootin, and Scatabo got hurt in preseason. Tootin was sort of boxed out. Feels like Tootin now is not boxed out, that he is sort of the clear number 2, or at least as I see it, in Jacksonville behind Travis Etienne. Scatabo, I think he's going to see his playing time increase, although Tracy was a clear alpha in that backfield, although didn't perform well, but in terms of usage in that backfield in week 1, JCM over both of these guys as well?
Okay, so it was Scatabo and who else?
Tootin.
I think I'd take JCM over.
Isn't that crazy? God,
man, Scatabo has
together, and I don't know what to do with it.
Scatabo has such a great receiving profile. I mean, this guy could be a PPR machine. Yes. This is really tough, dude. This is really, really tough. My mind has been in redraft mode for the past couple of weeks.
Don't we think that Scatabo is going to eventually overtake Tracy? Not necessarily like he's going to be an 80-90% back, but I think more in the 50-50 where he's getting a lot of the pass stuff.
Well, I mean, if you look at like last year's, if you look at last year's metrics, right? I mean, if you look at guys with, I believe, more than 150 rush attempts last year. Okay, so Tyrone Tracy had the lowest success rate among all running backs with more than 150 rush attempts last year. The only person that was better than him was Javonte Williams, who was second to last in front of only Tyrone Tracy.
Right.
So that's, and he's a converted wide receiver to running back. There's a place for Tyrone Tracy on that offense, but I think it's going to be Cam Scatabo later on in the season. Just like it is. You know what? I've been thinking about like JCM. Okay, let's talk about JCM and let's talk about JCM and what's going to be his, what's the best potential for his market share of touches though, right? As the season goes on. If Eckler doesn't get injured, Jaden Daniels stays healthy, what's going to be the best case scenario for JCM as far as volume goes? Maybe 50% snap share tops. Yeah. Do you think he can get to 60% snap share?
He's not the pass down back.
No.
The bull case would be he's their number one guy and sort of, rushing the football between the 20s, first and second down, short yardage, goal line. Potentially, if you could say, hey, I see 10 plus rushing touchdowns for JCM, and that's how he gets you home, I can hear that. That's where I think he kind of gets you, but he's not going to get you there in a PPR format, catching the football, or at least we certainly presume he won't, as Eckler's got that role locked up. Again, presuming Eckler stays healthy. But even if Eckler gets hurt, you got to think that they would have somebody else in that pass down work, not just JCM everywhere. I suppose it's possible. He's certainly exceeded expectations at every moment here so far this offseason and into week one, which is why I'm wondering, this is a good offense. And so if you're going to give me a first and second down grinder goal line type player, at least I want it in a good offense.
Yeah. And I think if you want to sell JCM right now for Kaleb Johnson, you could probably get Kaleb Johnson maybe a little bit more, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. I think right now the value of JCM is through the roof. And it's still like, I basically was like, he's still like Brian Robinson from last year, right? Like he's still that. Like he's David Montgomery, right? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, in other words, the ceiling is still kind of in those realms. I mean, maybe a little bit higher than Montgomery, but Montgomery, man, no rushing quarterback, and that's where he got his work was just at the goal line. He scored a touchdown every week. I don't even know, they get like 15 or some crazy thing 1 year in Detroit. So I don't know that we see that kind of ceiling from JCM. But he looks darn good, and in a great offense, there's going to be some opportunities for him to get in the end zone. Yeah, that's it. Moving along. All right, we're gonna have some fun. This is one of those where I'm not sure I'm ready to take any victory lap. I'm really not. I'm not taking a victory lap. I'm just saying we kind of saw this coming with Matthew Golden. We mentioned this. We talked about it, that he's not a target earner. This isn't an anti-Golden. I said last week on the show, I would rather be wrong on this and watch Golden be awesome. I'm ready. Like, I'd rather just be wrong. But in week one, his lack of target earning showed up. Do you think this is kind of the way it's going to go? That, hey, maybe we'll see, better days, of course, but that this is an issue for him going forward, and he's not going to be able to earn the number and requisite targets in order to pay off his ceiling.
I mean, earlier in the season, I put out tweets that saying, for being a projected first-round pick, Matthew Golden has as bad, if not worse, of a production profile as Mecole Hardman, who was also a recent first-round pick. And I mean, if you look at like Matthew Golden, really, I don't think anybody really had Matthew Golden as a projected first-round wide receiver, I think, outside of Daniel Jeremiah, who is the only guy touting Matthew Golden. And then Matthew Golden goes to the combine, runs a fast 40, and all of a sudden he's a consensus first-round pick. That's the way I had it playing out in my mind. That's the way I think I remember it going in the offseason. And then I spoke to Andy Herman, Packers beat writer, and I was asking him about Matthew Golden. I'm like, is there a possibility he becomes the this offense? He goes, it's gonna be I'm blanking on Titan's name. What's their Titan's name?
Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft, yes. He was like, no, it's going to be Tucker Kraft. It's going to be Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft's the guy you want in this offense. Is it possible? Sure, but it just really hasn't been done since Devontae Adams left in a LaFleur system. And, you look at what he did in college. I mean, he wasn't good against man coverage in college. He's a fine. I don't know, man. He's got first round draft. I'll tell you, I have zero Matthew Golden on any of my dynasty teams. Yeah. I'll tell you that much.
I think I do too. Here's the thing, Tucker Kraft led the team with 18 routes run. They did not throw the football. It was a low volume attack. Jordan Love got there because he had the touchdown to Kraft and touchdown to Jaden Reed. But yeah, I mean, Matthew Golden was on the field a bit. Ran 13 routes, Tucker Kraft 18, Dubs 17, Golden 13, Reed 12, Wicks 9. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I mean,
like, great. It's not a lot of volume.
When they ratchet up the volume and they've got to throw 40 times and there's, these numbers are 38, 37, 35 instead of 18, 17, and 15, right? When they're up there, I think there's a way for him to get home. He's going to have to make big plays. But yeah, look, Jaden Reed earned 5 targets on 12 routes.
Jaden Reed has
Just
so
saying.
slept on, dude. He was
Yeah.
such a great wide receiver last year. He led the team in receiving yards and playing like the least amount of snaps last year.
Right.
He's arguably their best wide receiver right now. And he
Yeah.
just never gets any playing time. And that's coming off an ankle injury through the offseason. So yeah, I know Matthew Golden, obviously he outsnapped Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just this dude doesn't really have anything in his profile, and there's nothing I can really do there's nothing I can really lean on for Matthew Golden outside of first round draft capital. There's nothing else I got. There's
Yeah.
nothing else I got for Matthew Golden.
I'm going to say we need to see another week before I even
Yeah.
say that. You know what I mean? Obviously, I mean, but had they thrown the ball 50 times and he got 2 targets, that's way different than he ran 13 or whatever it was, 13 routes and saw 2. It's fine, whatever. Let's just see what happens as we move forward. But it was not great that Kraft, Dubs, and Jaden Reed all out targeted him by quite a bit, by 2-1. So that's not great. Let's go go ahead.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to the expectation. What do you expect? This guy was going to be a dynasty wide receiver one off the rip. Like,
I think so.
I mean,
I think that's what people thought.
that's what people
I
are
really
thinking.
do.
No,
Yes.
that's incorrect. You can't. Yeah, it's incorrect process.
That he was going to be the clear one. People said we don't have an alpha. We need one. He's an alpha. I'm like, boy, oh boy, he doesn't profile like that. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, that he just comes from nowhere, but it just didn't make sense to me. But we'll see, because I'm still not.
Okay.
I'm not done telling the tale. Let's move to Philadelphia, where I've had some heebie-jeebies about AJ Brown. The one target is less of my issue than it is the sort of the passing attack. They don't target the wide receivers very much. They didn't target the wide receivers very much last year. I think I mentioned last year. Do you know how many players on Philadelphia had 100 targets? The answer was 0. AJ Brown got there on just being a pure badass. But they ran 33 routes, both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They got 4 total targets in the game. Dallas Goedert 7, Saquon 5, Dotson 3. Like, not enough pass attempts and targets going out there. There's a lot of scrambling, a lot of rushing, a lot of screen stuff to Barkley. I'm very, very concerned that AJ Brown and Devontae Smith get there this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles were last in pass rate over expectation last year. They got to the Super Bowl by doing what they did in Week 1, just running the hell out of the ball with Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts using his feet. I don't know why they would just wake up, and be like, okay, now we're going to change it back to going to pass heavy volume when what we just did got us the Super Bowl. Sure, they might tweak it because they want to not be so predictable. But I mean, in the 7 weeks, or in the, what he played, 13 weeks, AJ Brown played 13 weeks last year, I think. In the 13 weeks he played,
right.
He finished as a wide receiver 3 or worse in 7 of those 13 weeks. Wow. It's volume. It's just a volume play. That's all it is. And AJ Brown is a badass. And when AJ Brown was his badass self with his targets, he was a top 6, 7 wide receiver in those window weeks. But you're going to have to go through a lot of volatility with AJ Brown unless this team changes its offensive approach. And I don't know why it would. I just can't come up with a reason. Even if I was reaching, I couldn't come up. Okay, so their cornerbacks were actually horrible in Week 1. Their secondary looked pretty bad last week. Dak Prescott was throwing the ball pretty well last week. I mean, that could be an argument. Maybe their secondary is garbage this year. I don't know what their schedule looks like. It could favor a more pass heavy game script, but yeah, it's that might be your saving grace for AJ Brown, that they just get in a hole in the game script.
Yeah. Put it this way, I think if he's sort of AJ Brown, that is sort of valued as a top 15-ish a wide receiver in Dynasty. I've been selling as much as possible on that value. I love AJ Brown. I mean, he's we're talking about football player. There is no I'm not so sure about this guy. But in terms of fantasy and return on investment at top 15, even top 20, I mean, I'd much rather have Odunze, and I have a lot of questions about Odunze, but at least I get a longer runway. At some point, I'm not sure what happens with the AJ Brown ride. I mean, how long is he going to be attached to this offense with Jalen Hurts feels like for an indefinite period of time. So I don't see it changing because they're winning. If this was a losing team, I'd say they're going to change something. They're going to be able to do this, that, and the other. But they won the game with him having one target. They don't need to chuck it around. That's not how they play. They're able to run the football. Hurts is able to scramble a lot. I mean, they run a lot of routes, but Hurts scrambled on a bunch of them, picking up big yardage, on his own. So, even in terms of total dropbacks and routes run, you don't see a lot of attempts and therefore targets. You mentioned it. Last year he played 13 games. He averaged under 30 routes per game, only 27 routes per game. He was dope on a per route basis, of course, because he's awesome. But if that holds and they're just running 25 to 30 routes a game, he ran 33 this past week. I just get very, very nervous about what's actually going to become of that type of an offense. And as you point out, this is where they kind of had to throw it around a little bit. It's a bit of a shootout in some ways, I don't see it. Sell.
100%. I completely agree with you.
On the flip side, Nico Collins, he's a little older because, he was older as a prospect coming into the league. He then had the 2 years of Davis Mills or whatever was going on, and then finally broke out. I think he's like 27. That's a little bit old for wide receiver. I'm a little bit nervous about the long-term sort of dynasty curve for Nico Collins. I'm not really concerned about this year, though. I think that was a blip in the radar. Are you with me?
Yeah, 100%. I'm right there with you. Yeah, I don't really have any kind of reservations about Nico Collins at all. I mean, this guy's an uber talented wide receiver who's been a massive producer on his opportunities. He's just fine right where he's at.
Yeah. What else do we have? Cooper Kupp, ready to pour the cup out? I mean, are we done? Is this over? It's over.
Yeah,
right?
it's done. I mean, this is a really run heavy offense that doesn't really favor, a lot of passing sets. He's the wide receiver 2 on the team, and he's going to have some good weeks, I'm sure. This is a JSN. This is a JSN offense. JSN is a target magnet. I mean, I don't know if anybody was expecting a Cooper Kupp resurgence in this offense on Seattle, but that just wasn't a realistic expectation. You can't. Yeah, I think it's pretty much done.
Yep, I agree. Kenneth Walker is a big one, I think, for me right now, because I'm wondering what exactly is going on in Seattle. It's still a run-heavy team. He got not enough, but he got more opportunities than it feels like, how he finished. What are we thinking about Ken Walker?
When I was listening to your last episode, Greg, from Coach Speak Index, you guys brought up Kenneth Walker and you were talking about him, and the quotes that Greg was bringing up from their head coach was everything had to do with pass catching, and nothing had to do. There was nothing in there about running the ball. And I get pass catching is really valuable for PPR value, but I think that and for example, he was second in the team in targets. He tied Cooper Kupp with 3 targets, right behind JSN.
Right.
That's crazy. So yeah, I think Zach Charbonnet
33% target rate. He ran 9 routes, got 3 targets.
Yeah, I mean, I love Kenneth Walker. I love them coming out. I mean, it just seems like it doesn't matter what you really think of him. It doesn't matter how awesome he is. Zach Charbonnet is a very talented running back too, who received 2nd round draft capital. He's been the most productive running back to come out of UCLA since I believe Maurice Jones-Drew. So I don't. Zach Charbonnet is going to be probably a figurehead in that offense that's not going away.
In terms of rushing, they basically split it 50-50. Charbonnet and Walker. We hoped it would be if you're a Walker supporter, you were hoping it'd probably be closer to 60-65% for Walker. It was about 45 rush attempts for him. But he got all the routes, all 9 routes. He got every single damn route there was for the running back. 9 of them, 9 total routes. The Patriots threw 10 times to the running back. Never mind just 9 routes. That's crazy. So the pass game upside is not very much if this is their pattern. We will be watching this going forward. Incredible. What about Miami? Everything Miami right now feels like it's about to implode. The head coach, the quarterback, the wide receiver, like everything feels like it's ready to just be like, this is over.
It just felt like that all off season. It just felt like
Yeah.
I didn't want any outside of Devon Achane. I didn't want any piece of this Miami offense. I didn't want Jalen Waddle. I didn't want to buy. There was a little bit of steam for Tyreek Hill picking up towards the beginning of the season. After people being down on him all off season, I wasn't buying into that. Their offensive line, it just got worse. James Daniels is going to be out, their right guard, for a while, and I thought he was probably their best piece on that offensive line. They already had like the 30th worst offensive line coming into the year. It's just not great, and the film doesn't look good for Tua. Xavier Howard was, had some words about Tua. They said, look, this guy's a first read quarterback. After that, he just panics. Mike McDaniels, I think, by name in the press conference after the game, said he threw one of his players under the bus. Like, he's like, no, that it was a linebacker. I forgot his name. And what does that do for the locker room? I mean, even if the other players don't like that specific player or don't think too highly of him, when your head coach does that, that's different. That's like, that's like me making a racist joke about Armenians because I'm Armenian. I can do it. I'm Armenian. But if somebody else says it, hey, watch your goddamn mouth.
Right. Yeah. Well, who can I make fun of? I can't make fun of anybody. That's not right.
Yeah.
I want to be able to make fun of everybody equal because I don't like anybody. So that's a big. That's where I come in. I'm not racist. I hate everybody equal.
Equally.
What I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I hate everyone. Totally equal. I want to be able to make jokes about absolutely everybody, but unfortunately these days I got to be very careful. But no, I'm joking. Yeah, man, it feels like it's. I love that my Patriots are playing them, and I will tell you, if we lose that game, it's going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt a lot because we don't have a very good track record in Miami. It's hot. It's I'm just ready for I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be hurt. So I never thought I'd say it, but I'm ready to be hurt. I've got one thing I want to ask you before we go. One more message. Welcome back. Me and Z finishing it off here. Hey man, I am so grateful for you coming on the show. You are awesome. I've got one more thing we're going to hit before we go, but I just wanted to let you tell everybody where they can find you. And I'm just really grateful for having you on the show, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, you can find me at 32 Beat Writers, doing a lot of analysis, fantasy analysis on the player feeds out there, writing articles. I got a show over there called Beyond the Rankings. I will be on hiatus, though. I will be in Barcelona for my wife's 40th birthday for the next about a week and a half. We're leaving on Friday.
Nice.
And then you can find me on X at ZCantsFF. My last piece of analysis dropped on my timeline was last night. It says Tootin, 5 exclamation marks, preceded by let's fucking go, 8 exclamation marks. That was my last piece of analysis.
Very sound analysis. Hashtag analysis, as we like to say, right?
That was it. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you get a couple things off here. I want to just kind of say myself personally, I told you fuckers. I told you Breece Hall's good. I knew this sort of split backfield. You can split the backfield all you want. Breece Hall is a special player, man. Like the fact that we thought that, any of these other backup players on the Jets were going to be like pressuring Breece Hall off the field made no sense to me. He's the elite pass down game player in that offense to whatever extent they want to do that. And then he's a much better runner than any of these other guys. If they want to spell him with Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis or Braylon Davis or Isaiah Allen, any of those motherfuckers are not as good as Breece Hall. We knew this coming in. Breece Hall was a buy. Congratulations if you took that advice. That was the one I won on. Z, tell us what you've been thinking about. Not necessarily a victory lap. I know you don't always do those. You like to be a little bit, you're a much nicer person than me. A better human is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it has anything to do with you being Armenian because I don't like those people. But I do think you're a better person than me. So tell the world what you've been thinking about and something that you want to share right now.
So yeah, I probably have like an I told you somewhere in my head that I'll think about after the show. But right now, I just have been one thing I've been thinking about a lot is Alvin Kamara under Kellen Moore's scheme, and now Alvin Kamara week 1 only received 2 targets, and that was really interesting to me for a team that tied first in the league with 46 pass attempts, only 2 targets going to Alvin Kamara in week 1. Where, what, how is there no volume for Alvin Kamara, right? And last time Alvin Kamara received 2 targets, I think was in 2022 week 15.
Wow.
That was the
Wow, wow,
last
wow, wow.
time he received 2 targets. And then I did a little bit more digging, and then I believe it was Ryan Heath. He put out a nugget, I believe in August, saying that Kellen Moore has never averaged more than 1 design target per game. I believe I should have looked it up. I should have brought it up
That's
on my
okay.
thumbnail.
Yeah.
But basically, Kellen Moore doesn't do design targets. I mean, that was with Tony
Wow.
Pollard. That was with, Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, all those guys. He doesn't do design targets. I am terrified for Alvin Kamara, who Alvin Kamara led the league with Devon Achane over the past 2 years in design routes run and targets on design routes run. And that's why he was always a bargain year after year. And so this year, we might be looking at absolutely none of that for Alvin Kamara. I am terrified.
Wow.
Week 2 is going to be week 2 should be something for that. So we'll see.
Wow, this is coming from a player that was like, first of all, the fact that in his first 3 seasons he caught exactly 81 balls 3 years in a row is so cool. But anyway, he 98, 96, 95, 103. Even in the last 2 seasons in 24, 23, 87 and 86 targets per season, on a pace for 35 this year with 2 in week 1. So yeah, definitely a trend that would not be very good for Alvin Kamara's fantasy value, because it's been found by him being an awesome pass catcher. So yeah, I think he scored a touchdown, so that kind of got him there for fantasy. But yeah, what a great call. That's a little disconcerting for sure. We've been Joe Kuvatakis, your friend. You can say hi to Joe if you want, but Joe had been touting Kendre Miller. He looked pretty good in this offense, albeit just spelling Kamara. But look, if something happens to Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller is a great stash, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was watching Kendre Miller snaps during the game, and Kendre
yeah,
Miller I think got like maybe less than a quarter of the snaps that Alvin Kamara did, but he looked good in the preseason. I think Devin Neal was contending for that RB2 spot. Devin Neal fell off he fell off because or he didn't get the spot because he was injured. And then Kendre Miller came in, 2 years later after everybody was high on him. He's looking good, and he's got he could eat into that workload a little bit more too for Kamara.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they did not play him in the pass game, either guy, but yeah, I mean, we look at Devin Neal got 2 attempts, Kendre Miller with 5. Kendre Miller again led the team in yards per rush. I mean, looked pretty good out there. Nothing crazy, but I think he's just good enough that if something were to happen, he'd find his way on the field for pretty meaningful snaps, and certainly would be a RB2-3 on a weekly basis for sure. Right in that ballpark, top 25-ish running back on a weekly basis on a team that they got to figure out quarterback. Spencer Rattler, not the answer, but I don't think Tyler Shugg's the answer either. But I'd be one to see what that dude can do. I just don't know, man. They probably are going to ping pong that thing this year. I don't think anybody's going to hold the job for more than 4 or 5 weeks at a time. If I could probably make a guess on how this is going to go. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's going to go back and forth between the two. There's no real quarterback answer right there. But I mean, the wide receivers got a lot of volume. Apparently, Juwan Johnson is apparently going to be a top 5 tight end this year. Apparently now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just saying that in jest. That's not happening.
No, I
but
know,
yeah,
but I mean, Juwan's been a little sneaky throughout, and especially if they're not going to throw the ball to Alvin Kamara, that does open up something for the tight end. So it's
yeah,
actually not even a crazy statement. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a top 5, but I think he could easily be a tight end 1. He's flirted with that already. I'm not looking at his stats, but yeah, definitely Juwan Johnson. Hey, man, Undroppables loves Zareh. They just do. We all do. Thank you so much for being on the show. Any parting comments before I let you go? It's just been an honor to have you on, brother.
I don't know, man. No, nothing really. No really wise words of wisdom. I mean, just enjoy the game. It's week 1. Just savor every single moment. I mean, we're in the beginning of it. We fight so hard. We scrap and we yell at each other for months on end in the off season over who's right and wrong. Let's remember to have fun with this. And again, just keep listening to Scott's show. He's awesome. He's one of the best Dynasty guys out there. And if you want some awesome exclusive player feed news, please subscribe to 32 Beat Writers. We have really unique content over there. I think that could be very beneficial for your fantasy teams.
Indeed. Thank you so much. On behalf of everybody here at the Undroppables, on behalf of everybody here at the Undrafted, on behalf of the single greatest podcast producer to ever win a game in Philadelphia, Mr. Michael P. Duncan, you have been joined by Zareh. I'm not saying his last name. Maybe I'll say it. Zareh. Kantzabedian. I am Jax Falcone, and we are out.